I hope everybody's having a wonderful, blessed day. I hope everybody feels encouraged. But what I want to talk about, an allegory in the Bible. Now we know that the Bible and many of the esoteric books, but primarily the Bible, is a book of allegories, metaphors, codes, astrology, and some of these stories you can take literally. Now but figuratively is what we're looking at. We're looking at the dynamic of lessons to be taught. So, because everything is applicable, you can use it in your own life. So, but I want to talk about Yeshua when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he was praying to the Creator of all after he was kind of lost, the will or the strength, I could say, to kind of go on with his mission. And he asked the Father, why is he forsaken him? Because he was getting his strength derived from that. And when he was getting ready to be hung, and before that, he was going through a mental crisis, because when something's gonna happen and it builds up, just because he was in the flesh, he was going through some things like we go through some things. So that's a heavy burden to bear, but we all got to go through it to be Christ-like, Christ conscious. We try to be to the best of our ability, and that's the lesson that we have to learn in this. The metaphor is we're going to go through some things, and we're going to have pressure, because pressure either bursts pipes or it creates diamonds. One or the other. It depends on what side of the fence you're on, what level you're on. So, it makes you strong. And then I also want to speak about, when after he left the garden, and he had to go through with the mission, and then the Roman army came to retrieve him, he had finally dealt with it. He knew he had to. Even though the 12 were right there, they battled with him, and and he told him to back. This had to be done. And the suffering he had to endure afterwards. Now, like I say, this could be an allegory. You could take it literal, or you could take it as an allegory. He was mocked, spat on, ridiculed, chastened. You put yourself in his shoes. You put yourself there. That's what these stories are for. You put yourself there in the moment. Now, I did a take, a little while ago on pressure, and actually being forced to do something that you feel is not your will. And I spoke on the animals migrating and leaving, Yellowstone, and then people in general saying leave California. And I don't blame you for saying that. I don't blame people for saying that, because I'm from California, born and raised, stay here. But animals migrate when they sense danger, and they're going to leave. But that's happened since the beginning of time. And the humans only follow because that was food. You follow the food. You know what I'm saying? We don't eat lions. We don't eat bears. We don't eat, goats are leaving. Some people partake in goat. Birds are flocking, stuff like that. But you're not going to be able to just jump up and migrate like an animal do. That's instinctual, you know, because catastrophic shit is going to happen. Catastrophes are going to happen everywhere. So you could be jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. Who knows? You thought you left one scenario and jumped in another one. You know, you escaped a bear and a snake bit you. You know, so you take care of what you can take care of. Let your yay be your yay and your nay be your nay. You know, but I also want to hold on. Give me one moment. I have to take a quick break, right quick. You know. Now back to the point at hand, the pressures of you know, and the allegory of Yeshua, the allegory of Yeshua, you know, and what it has to do with all of us. You know, some people can't handle pressure. They can't handle the pain. So people go into spiritual psychosis. Some people, you know, which they would call schizophrenia, kind of lose your mind. You know, you mess with the mind, the body must follow. So you have to be strong-minded, strong-willed. You know, when he was being chastened, he was being beaten. Put yourself in them shoes. You know, people make it seem so simple. You know, when he was being beat and tormented, can you imagine yourself being whipped with a cat and 9 tails? You know what a cat and 9 tails is? It's a long whip with 9 lashes, leather, and it has pointy metal objects that are sharp as knives at the end that curve. So when you get whipped with that, it's gonna grab. It's gonna, not only will it scratch you and wet you, it will grab your skin, and when they pull back, it will take chunks out. And can you imagine getting beat severely with thorns in your 6-inch thorns in your head? No, you couldn't. A beautiful, tender, soft goddess. Can you? There's no way you could. One stroke across your back, you will. I promise, you will fall out. You will give up the ghost right then. Men, you could be the hardest regardless, stone wall, and you get hit with that thing, all the bitch coming out you then. You know. But can you endure that? Now let's use that as an allegory, what we would do as our lives. Because we've been beaten, ridiculed, but, you know, metaphorically speaking, you know, we've been talked about, you know, we've been punished, we've been hurt, you know, we've been going through, you know, we've been downtrodden for a millennia, even through incarnation, you know, and we still moving on because we know there's a mission that we have to complete. And that's my point. My mission is to be here, and everybody's mission is to be there. Everywhere you go, there you are. You're where you're at because you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be there. And you're supposed to do the will, and you help. You open people up. Critical thinking. Open their third eye. Heal them. Heal the body. Heal the soul to the best of your ability. You know, you help them balance themselves out. Use balance. So to be cleansed. You know, and you do this all the way till the wheels fall off. But you have, but heal yourself in the process. Or at least be healed before you do it. But it's all a mission. And we're here for that mission. To take the abuse and the ridicule. To watch all that heavenly glory when we're done. So, don't live in fear. Don't let these catastrophes fear you. Put fear in you. Don't. Because that's predictive programming. They're trying to program your subconscious into being afraid of the inevitable. But you are more powerful than that. I say.